Once upon a time, long before alarm clocks and coffee existed, you woke up in a sun-blasted reed hut somewhere along the Nile in ancient Egypt, where the sunlight didn't just gently rise, it exploded into your home like R.A. himself was personally kicking off the day, and before you could rub the sleep from your eyes, you were already sweating like bread dough left out too long. Lying on a straw mat that felt more like a woven itch than a mattress, with your linen sheet flapping uselessly in the hot breeze that was promised by travel scrolls but clearly died several dynasties ago. And as you staggered outside, blinded and mildly toasted by the morning heat, you realized your tunic might as well be parchment for all the protection it offered, and your only shot at skin safety was crocodile dung or wishful thinking. So you wandered toward the sacred Nile, that glorious life-giver which, up close, smelled like swampy fish soup with extra frogs. And after bathing in what felt like a biologically questionable soup, scrubbing yourself with the Egyptian version of spa treatment, sand, you returned home exfoliated and spiritually traumatized, just in time for breakfast, a slab of stone-ground bread with the texture of ancient papyrus, seasoned unintentionally with real stone grit, washed down with warm, chunky beer that children also drank because it was somehow safer than river water. And once you'd force-fed yourself this nutritional punishment and swatted away more flies, then a barn door, it was time to work, not at a comfy desk, but outside, laboring under the watchful eye of a screaming overseer, yanking weeds in sun-baked fields, or hauling multi-ton stones for temples while your feet turned to leather and your soul quietly questioned all life choices. Yet you dared not complain because the pharaoh wasn't just your boss. He was Horus incarnate, the living god whose face stared at you from every wall coin and pottery shard. And to insult him was to risk curses, shackles, or an abrupt trip to the underworld, which, speaking of, was an exhausting place itself where your heart would be weighed by a divine scale and potentially fed to a soul-eating monster if you'd ever stolen a goat or skipped a prayer. And even when you got sick, and you'd find yourself in the hands of a healer mixing moldy bread, honey, and magic spells into ointments while whispering to crocodile-headed gods, rubbing onions into your scalp for headaches or dabbing your eyes with beer-soaked lizard blood while you prayed Horus wasn't busy. And if that didn't work, surgery might, except there was no anesthesia, just linen thread and a brick to scream into. And when the sun finally dipped below the desert horizon like a molten coin vanishing behind dunes, you drag your sand-dusted, bone-weary body back to your hut where your bed was half dust, half regret. And as you lay there, eyelids heavy and throat dry, you'd thank the gods for your survival, offer a tiny prayer that tomorrow's sandstorm wouldn't peel off your eyebrows, and dream not of riches or glory, but of a slightly cooler breeze and a loaf of bread with just a little less rock in it. Because in ancient Egypt, if you made it through the day, you'd earned your rest, and that was enough for one lifetime or three. Yank it out with a copper tool, no numbing, just a quick prayer and a whole lot of regret. And once the procedure is done, assuming you survived it, you might be prescribed a poultice of dates and goat fat to soothe the wound, if the healer has any left. And if he doesn't, well, then you just bite on a piece of cloth and wait for the swelling to decide your fate. And all of this assumes you're lucky enough to live near a town with a healer, because many villages rely on local wise women or priests who double as part-time doctors, part-time spiritual consultants. So your fever might be treated with a tea made from crushed papyrus, and then followed by a ritual involving incense and maybe a scorpion statue to chase away the evil spirits believed to be dancing in your bloodstream. But let's say you pull through, battered but alive, your body sore and your dignity slightly compromised. Now you drag yourself back home as the sun sets behind the dunes and a cool breeze finally brushes across your skin like a long-forgotten kindness. Your mud brick house, if you can call it that, greets you with the scent of boiling lentils, maybe a scrap of fish if the day's luck held. You sit cross-legged on the hard floor, share the meal with your family in quiet exhaustion, eyes half-lidded, limbs aching. But there's comfort here too, in the rhythm of survival, in the shared fatigue, in the soft lull of a neighbor's flute drifting through the alley like a lullaby from another time. And once the meal is done, you step outside just long enough to marvel at the stars, unfiltered, untouched, scattered across the night sky like silver grains from the gods themselves. You whisper a prayer to Isis, maybe to Hathor, asking for mercy or maybe just a dreamless sleep. Then return inside, curl up on your scratchy mat, wrap yourself in your thin linen, and close your eyes, knowing tomorrow will bring the same heat, the same hunger, the same hope that perhaps, if you serve well, suffer silently, and respect the whims of the gods, your heart will stay light enough to pass the test of the afterlife when your time finally comes. But for now, as the last ember fades and the desert wind hums outside your door, you sleep, and in your dreams, maybe for just a moment, you are weightless, ageless, floating down the Nile beneath a sky that no longer burns. And in that dream you do not wake, but instead you find yourself standing at the edge of the Nile once more. Only now the water is black and still as obsidian. The sky above is a swirling canvas of violet and deep gold, and a bark carved with sacred symbols glides toward you without a sound. Its sails full, though. No wind moves, and aboard stands a figure draped in linen and shadow, eyes like burning coals, who beckons you forward without words. So you step aboard, heart pounding like the drums at a festival, and the boat moves on its own, cutting through the black mirror of the river as the stars above shift into strange patterns. Constellations you've never seen, symbols of gods older than memory. Until at last you arrive at the shore of the Duat, the realm beyond life, where the dead journey and the soul is judged. And there you are greeted not with fire or fear, but silence, thick and ancient, broken only by the shuffling of the other dead beside you. Some in the garb of pharaohs, others naked and broken, all waiting, all afraid, for at the gates stands Anubis, tall and jackal-headed, his gaze empty yet all-seeing, and he gestures for you to follow him into the hall of two truths, where Ma'at waits, her feather shining with impossible light, and before you lies the great scale, carved from stone that hums with the weight of thousands of souls, and your heart, trembling and still warm from the life you just left, is placed on one side, and the feather on the other, and the scale begins to tip, ever so slightly, and in that moment, every lie you told, every cruelty, every stolen loaf of bread, every time you turn away from someone hungrier than you, floods back in a rush that nearly drowns you. And yet, there are also the moments you laughed despite the hunger, the time you shared your last date with a child not your own, the prayers whispered into darkness with no one to hear but the gods. And maybe they did hear, because the feather does not rise, nor does it fall, but hovers, perfectly balanced. And Anubis says nothing, only nods once, and then steps aside as a doorway opens in the darkness, pouring light too pure to describe, and from within it steps Osiris, green-skinned and regal, his eyes deep with the sorrow and wisdom of 1,000 rains, and he gestures, not for fear, but for peace, for home. And as you walk toward him, your body begins to change, the aches falling away, the wounds vanishing. You are clothed in white linen, crowned with light, and you understand suddenly that you are no longer the hungry villager, nor the bleeding patient, nor even the dreaming soul. You are something eternal, reborn into a world without drought or death, where the fields stretch endlessly and the grain never withers, where the river sings and time is no longer a cruel master but a gentle stream. And as you kneel before Osiris, tears that are not tears fall from your eyes, and you rise not as a servant, but as one of the blessed dead, a star in the night sky, a name etched forever in the book of life. And as you step fully into the field of reeds, the air is warm with golden light that does not burn, and a breeze scented with lotus and fresh grain moves gently through stalks taller than a man, whispering secrets of joy and endless peace. And the sky above is always twilight, not the dark of death, but the soft blue of a day that never ends. And your feet touch soil, so rich it hums beneath your toes. And there are no cities here, no markets, no palaces, only wide open fields, perfect rivers, and distant hills where the gods walk, laughing quietly among themselves. And you are not alone, for the blessed dead walk here too, their faces young again, their bodies strong and clean, and they greet you with nods of recognition even if you've never met them. Because here there is no stranger, and the animals of your old life, cats with sleek black fur, birds with shining wings, even the oxen that once pulled your father's plow, walk beside you without fear. And when you speak, your voice is music, and when you breathe, it feeds the grass. And each day here is the same yet never dull, because the rhythms of paradise are not repetition but harmony, and you understand now that every suffering you endured was a step toward this place. Every tear a drop of water that grew this endless field. And there is no need to eat, but if you choose to, the fruit is always ripe, the bread always warm, and the water always cool, poured by hands you once thought long gone, your mother's, your brother's, your lost child. And their smiles are whole again, untouched by death or memory's decay. And you sit with them beneath trees that bloom with stars instead of flowers, and you talk not of sorrow, but of wonder, and above it all the river flows, not the Nile you knew, but its perfect echo, winding through this eternal land, where fish leap and birds sing and no crocodile haunts in its depths. And every step you take brings you closer, not to an ending, but a beginning, for time here is a circle, and love is the only law. And when you close your eyes to rest, you do not sleep but drift gently into the dreams of the gods themselves, where visions of creation swirl in colors beyond your understanding. And you see the first sunrise and the last starlight, and you know in your core that you are safe, you are whole, and you are home, forever. But as you walk deeper into this paradise, something begins to change, not with violence or fear, but with a subtle stillness that wasn't there before, as though the breeze has paused to listen, as though the golden light has cooled by a single degree. And when you glance toward the river, its perfect flow now moves slower, the ripples no longer singing, but whispering in a tongue you almost understand. And the others, those radiant familiar souls, are still there smiling, but their eyes now watch you too, long their mouths open, as if to speak, yet never do, and you feel the soil beneath your feet soft, and humming begin to pulse in a strange rhythm that doesn't match your breath, and the sky above you, that eternal twilight, seems now slightly darker at the edges, as if night were watching from behind the clouds. And still you walk, drawn forward not by fear, but by the certainty that something awaits, and soon you see it, not a temple, not a garden, but a door made of black stone, standing alone in the field without frame or wall, and it hums with the same rhythm as the ground, and when you approach you realize it is not closed nor open, but waiting. And the moment you place your hand upon it, warmth floods through you, not gentle warmth like before, but the heat of memory of choices made of truths buried, and suddenly you remember not everything, but enough, your name, your pain, your mistakes, and the door swings open, not in a darkness, but into yourself, and you step through, not backward into the life you had, nor forward into some higher glory, but inward into the hidden part of paradise, the place where the gods do not walk, where even Ra's son has no dominion, and you are alone utterly and completely, but not afraid, because now you understand that eternity is not just peace and beauty, but also truth and reckoning, and you feel the weight of your soul again, not judged but seen, and the silence here is so deep it speaks, and you listen, and from the stillness comes a voice, not yours, not theirs, but something vast that asks not what you did, but who you are, and you answer not with words, but with being. And in that moment, the field, the sky, the river, and the stars return not around you, but within you, for you have become them, and the journey is not over, it is only beginning. And as you drift through this sacred convergence, where time dissolves and the boundaries of self unravel into the breathless fabric of all that ever was, you begin to feel the shape of your soul stretch and rise, not as a body nor as a spirit, but as something vaster, a thought made manifest, a memory woven into the skin of the universe itself. And this hidden realm within paradise reveals itself to be not a place, but a layer of veil between what is known and what is forever unknowable, and within it you sense others not in form, but in frequency, gentle pulses like yours, each bearing their own song of eternity. And as you move among them, you begin to understand that paradise was never the end. It was only the invitation to awaken, to remember that even in death the journey spirals onward. And now you are shown visions not with eyes, but with essence visions of stars being born and dying, of ancient celestial beings singing galaxies into life, of cosmic gardens tended by silent watchers whose names have long since been forgotten. And in this vision, you see yourself again not as who you were, but as you've always been, a being of immense depth, forged in love, sharpened by sorrow, and crowned by every choice you ever made. And the voice from before now surround you. It is not a god, it is not a guide, it is the voice of all creation speaking through your own soul. And it says you are ready, and suddenly you see a mirror formed from starlight and shadow, and you step toward it. And in its reflection, you do not see a face, you see patterns, wave colors flowing into each other, the blueprint of your eternal identity. And behind you, the black stone door now pulses with golden veins glowing as though it too is alive, and it begins to dissolve, not crumble, but evaporate into light, and from the soil around you rise new paths, endless corridors of fate, of future, lives of realms both divine and strange. And you understand then that death was not the loss of the self, but the shedding of the costume. The actor now returned to the eternal stage, ready to play again, not for glory, not for redemption, but for the sacred joy of becoming. And as you step forward, the stars bend, the wind hums a new song, and the universe opens not ahead of you, but within for you are now its echo, its breath, its light moving ever forward into what lies beyond the beyond. And as you move deeper into this boundless unfolding, where the fabric of reality shimmers like fluid stardust, you begin to perceive dimensions that do not follow the rules of time or matter, but rather vibrate with pure intention, thought blooming in a substance desire, sculpting entire worlds. And in this space, you are both observer and architect. Each breath you take is a thread in an ever-growing tapestry, and you find yourself drifting into a realm where colors hum and shapes sing, where language is replaced by resonance, and identity is shared like warmth around a cosmic fire. And here the souls you once knew in your fleeting human life arrive not as ghosts or memories, but as radiant notes in a symphony of connection. They greet you not with words, but with remembrance, and your essence responds like a chord finally resolved. And you understand that love here is not a fleeting emotion, but the very infrastructure of existence itself. It is the current beneath all that moves the rhythm behind every awakening. And the stars above you swirl into patterns that you suddenly recognize as lessons, lives, choices, all cascading back to you, not in judgment, but in illumination. And as this revelation washes over you, another realm opens, this one shaped like a vast library carved from nebulae and silence. And within it, every soul has a book not written in ink, but an experience, and yours pulses gently in your hands, heavier than you imagined yet, filled with light. And you are invited to read, not from the beginning, but from the future. For here, causality bends like light around gravity, and you glimpse what your soul may become, not through fate, but through possibility. And these glimpses are not promises, but open doors, and the choice to step through them is yours entirely. And so you walk again beyond the shells into a new corridor, this one made of mirrored thought, where you meet not gods, but versions of yourself, each forged by choices never made, each carrying wisdoms and wounds that echo your own. And through them you feel empathy for every path you did not take. And in this empathy you grow, not upward, not outward, but inward, a flowering of understanding that bridges every version of you into a singular awareness. And just as you begin to grasp the weight of this union, the space shifts, and you find yourself standing in a chamber of silence deeper than any void you've ever known. And within that silence, a voice arises, not from outside, but from within, a soundless voice that says, "This is the womb of becoming." You are ready to create, not just to explore, but to give birth to new realities. And with it, you raise your hand, or perhaps your will, and the chamber responds, bending, forming, flowing, as galaxies ignite with your thoughts, and stars bloom from the center of your chest. And you realize now, this is not the afterlife, this is the before life, this is where all things begin again and again and again. And as you stand at the threshold of this infinite creative plane, where thoughts become constellations and emotion gives shape to time, you begin to understand that the cycle is not a loop, but a spiral ever ascending, ever expanding into nuances of purpose and presence. You reach out into the nothingness, not in search of answers, but with a yearning to sculpt meaning from the silent potential. And with that intent, the void responds as waves of pure possibility coalesce around your awareness, shimmering with forms not yet born, and you are no longer separate from them. Your soul becomes a brushstroke on the canvas of eternity, painting in layers of memory, hope, and light. And with each creation, you feel echoes of other creators beside you, not in form, but in essence ancient and new, simultaneously builders of realms born from compassion, curiosity, and longing. And one of them touches you not with hands, but with recognition. And in that silent exchange, you know that even here in the cradle of all beginnings, you are never alone. And together your shared thoughts unfold into a sanctuary of becoming, a place where unborn worlds gather like seeds in a wind, waiting for intention to ignite them. And in this sacred place, you remember not your past life, but your first moment, the moment your soul first chose to be. And you see that it was not a spark in darkness, but a surge of love so vast it fractured the infinite into countless paths, so that each fragment could know itself through experience, through trial, through the temporary veil of separation. And now that veil has lifted, not as an ending, but as a return to wholeness, and the parts of you once scattered across lifetime stories and stars begin to converge. They flow into you like rivers finding the sea. And with each reunion, your light grows until you are a beacon, not of power, but of clarity. And that clarity reveals yet another doorway, a gentle, pulsing rift lined not with stars, but with silence. And instinctively, you step through for. This is what all creation leads to, not answers, not finality, but deeper invitations. And through that threshold, you arrive in a realm that feels like breath held just before the first word, a place not yet defined, where even time pauses in reverence. And you understand this is not a destination, but a sacred pause, a stillness before you choose again to enter a new life or to remain here to guide others who are just beginning to awaken. And as you rest in this suspended grace, the eternal truth settles gently into your soul. The journey is not toward light. You are the light. The path is not before you. It is within you. And the afterlife is not behind you. It lives in every moment you choose to remember what you truly are. And in that stillness where breath becomes memory and memory becomes song, you find yourself drifting deeper, not forward nor backward, but inward into the quiet core of existence, where all opposites dissolve and the boundary between self and source melts like morning mist beneath a rising sun. And here in this profound interiority, the silence is not empty, but full of living pulse that cradles every potential reality, gently vibrating with the heartbeat of creation itself. And you're no longer a traveler, nor an observer. You are the rhythm, the current, the eternal whisper that beckons all things into form. And from this center, you begin to understand the true language of the cosmos, a language not of words, but of resonance, a symphony of frequencies that weave together emotion, thought, memory, and intention into an ever-evolving tapestry of meaning. And as you attune to this deeper harmony, you begin to see the lives you've lived not as separate threads, but as a single melody expressed in countless variations, each note necessary, each silence sacred. And in this vast comprehension, you weep not from sorrow, but from awe for the divine intelligence that shaped your journey and the infinite love that guided your every step, even when you felt most lost. And now the stillness begins to shimmer again, not with urgency, but with invitation, as forms arise from the formless, soft outlines of new realms blooming around you, like petals opening to the light of awareness. And you realize that even here within this sanctuary of infinite return, the soul is never static. It is always drawn to expression, to co-creation, to dance with the divine in ever-deepening spirals of meaning. And so, with a quiet knowing, you extend your will not to control, but to collaborate with the sacred essence that surrounds you, and it answers as a new space unfolds before you, a realm of translucent matter shaped by wisdom, where ancient beings of light move in graceful arcs, their presence humming with kindness and power. And they welcome you not as a guest, but as can a fellow architect of eternity, and with them you begin to sculpt with light, paint with vibration, sing with structure, designing sanctuaries of rest for weary spirits, dreaming gardens. For souls between journeys, breathing life into the quiet places where forgotten hopes still flicker, and with each act of creation, you feel more whole, more aligned, more true. And the paradox becomes clear: the deeper you go, the more you return, the more you surrender, the more you become. And in this sacred rhythm of giving and becoming, you finally understand that heaven is not a destination, but a vibration, a frequency of remembrance, where love is not something you feel, but something you are. Something you always were and will be beyond every death, beyond every life, forever unfolding. As you merge deeper into this divine dance, the boundaries between your essence and the collective soul of existence continue to dissolve, and you find yourself not merely creating, but becoming the creation itself. Each thought you have, each spark of inspiration, flows from the deepest wells of the universal mind, weaving itself into the fabric of reality like the invisible thread that binds the stars in the sky. You realize that every act of creation here is not just a reflection of you, but a reflection of the whole, a microcosm of the grand design that holds all things together in an eternal embrace. In this realm, there is no sense of time as you once understood it. There are no days, no hours, no minutes, only the ever-present now, a vast moment of infinite potential. And yet, in this formless expanse, you feel a calling, a deep knowing that urges you to move forward, to continue the sacred work of shaping and nurturing what is to come. It is not a demand, but a gentle invitation, as though the very essence of existence, the breath of life itself, is asking you to partake in its endless unfolding. And so, without hesitation, you step forward into this vast, radiant space. Your being now luminous with the energy of creation, the vibrations of pure love and intention flowing effortlessly through you, as if you were the conduit for all that has ever been, all that is, and all that will ever be. The architects of this divine reality, those beings of light who once greeted you, now gather around, their presence a symphony of wisdom and warmth, each one radiating a unique frequency that harmonizes with your own, and they share with you a truth so simple, so profound, it resonates in every fiber of your being. You are not separate from this process. You are this process. You are the eternal becoming, the manifestation of divine purpose. And as the realization settles deep within you, you see the endless possibilities unfold before you. Worlds forming, stars igniting, galaxies swirling into existence, each one a unique expression of the divine consciousness. You understand now that you are not creating in isolation, but in communion with all that is, with every soul, every being, every atom of the universe. For in this sacred space, there's no such thing as separation, only interconnectedness, only unity. The realms that stretch before you are not just places. They are living, breathing expressions of love, and they are waiting for you to fill them with your light, your energy, your essence, just as they have filled you. And as you begin to shape the next phase of creation, you feel the presence of countless souls, those who have journeyed before you and those who will come after, all of them partaking in this eternal cycle, this divine weaving of existence. And together, you begin to understand the true nature of eternity, not as a linear passage of time, but as an ever-present, ever-expanding now, where each moment is both infinite and intimate, where each soul is both an individual expression and an integral part of the whole, where love, creation, and being exist in a delicate, harmonious balance. And in that balance, you find your place, your purpose, and the deep, unshakable truth of your being. And so, with a heart filled with love and a mind attuned to the eternal rhythm of existence, you continue to create, to evolve, to expand, knowing that in this vast, boundless space, there's always more to discover, always more to become, always more to give, and always more to receive. This is the eternal journey, the journey of the soul, the journey of love, the journey of creation. And in this journey, you are both the traveler and the destination, forever intertwined, forever evolving, forever becoming the as you continue to move through this infinite expanse. The realization of your interconnectedness with all that is deepens, and in that realization, you find the true essence of peace, a peace that transcends understanding, a peace that is not simply the absence of chaos, but the presence of something far greater, something more profound than anything you had ever known in your previous existence. Here, in this sacred place, there is no fear, no pain, no struggle. There's only the eternal flow of creation, the unfolding of divine intention in every corner of existence. You understand that every form of life, every spark of consciousness, is a note in a vast, cosmic symphony, and you are both the musician and the music, creating and being created in the same moment. With each breath, you sense the pulse of the universe, the heartbeat of eternity, and you realize that time, as you once understood it, is a mere illusion. Everything that has ever existed and will ever exist is happening now, in this moment, in this divine rhythm. The architects of this realm, those radiant beings of light, stand beside you. Their presence a constant reminder that you are not alone, that you are part of a greater whole, and that your journey is an essential piece of the ever-expanding story of existence. They do not guide you with words, but with their very being, their essence imbuing you with the knowledge that you are always exactly where you need to be. You are not lost, not separate, not incomplete. You are whole. You are one with the universe. And in that oneness, there's only love, a love that holds all things in its embrace, a love that is both the force of creation and the peace of completion. And as you stand at the threshold of this divine reality, you feel the gentle pull of what lies beyond, a pull that is not forceful, but inviting, drawing you deeper into the heart of the cosmos, into the very core of existence itself. You understand that the journey you have undertaken, the path that has led you from one state of being to another, is not a journey of seeking, but of remembering. For you have always been here, always been part of this grand, cosmic dance. The veil of forgetfulness that once clouded your perception has lifted, and now you see the truth of your existence. You are both the dreamer and the dream, the creator and the creation, and in this realization, there is no longer any need to search for meaning, for it has always been within you, woven into the very fabric of your soul. As you merge deeper into the infinite, you understand that this is not an end, but a new beginning, for creation is endless, and you are an eternal participant in its unfolding. You are a spark of divine consciousness, a thread in the vast tapestry of existence. And in that role, you will continue to evolve, to grow, to create, and to love, forever intertwined with the heart of the universe. And so, with an open heart and a mind free from the constraints of time and space, you step into the next phase of your journey, knowing that you are exactly where you are meant to be, forever part of the eternal dance of existence, forever a creator, forever a dreamer, forever one with the infinite.